country girls, those stories you cast like a spell. Let your voice ring, let everyone sing a song for the apple box bells. Sing a song for the apple box bells.
Hi, I'm Bruce Coughlan here in Lake Country, in the heart of British Columbia's fruit-growing region. Located in the North Okanagan Valley, Lake Country encompasses a region containing 3 breathtakingly beautiful lakes: Okanagan, Wood, and Kalamalka Lake. Lake Country stands on the unceded traditional territory of the Shuswap and Okanagan First Nations people, who have arranged this land for over 9,000 years. Today, Lake Country is comprised of 4 distinct neighborhood communities: Carr's Landing, Okanagan Center, Oyama, and Winfield. Each community bearing its own unique history of settlement and cultural heritage. Each community inseparably tied to the production of fruit over the past 130 years. Welcome to the Lake Country Museum and Archive in Okanagan Center, a facility that collects, preserves, and displays artifacts, manuscripts, and photographs about Lake Country history. A visit to this charming museum will lend greater insight into the Lake Country district and its colorful past, which, as you can see, revolves primarily around the planting, growing, harvesting, packaging, and shipping of fruit. Fur trade explorers first reached this region in the 1810s. By 1827, the Hudson's Bay Company had established the Okanagan Corridor as part of a brigade trail system for the transportation of furs and trade goods. The 1860s marked the introduction of ranching in the Okanagan. Cattle and horses could be grazed on open rangeland, then driven to market via the old Brigade Trail. Over a century and a half later, ranching still plays an active role in the Lake Country community. The founding of the Crown Colony of British Columbia in 1858 prompted immigration, and with it, subsistence farming. By the 1890s, it had become clear that the Lake Country environment was exceptional for raising fruit trees. And by the year 1900, expansive orchards like these had sprung up throughout Lake Country. The greatest challenge to growing fruit in an arid climate is access to water. Soon, a number of strategies had been devised, many using open flumes like this one leading down from Oyama Lake to irrigate the benchland below. In 1906, a group of settlers living close to the isthmus between Wood Lake and Kalamalka Lake came together to establish a post office. Dr. Irvin, who owned the adjacent property, donated a piece of land for this purpose. Mrs. Irvin, the good doctor's mother, suggested the name Oyama. Mrs. Irvin was fascinated with Prince Oyama Iwao, Field Marshal during the Russo-Japanese War and his dramatic rise up through the ranks of the Imperial Japanese Army. Where the community of Oyama lies today had been left largely unsettled until 1908, when a canal across the isthmus between the two lakes was constructed. The canal itself allowed for the transportation of people and goods by boat from Coldstream Ranch at the north end of Kalamalka Lake down to the south end of Wood Lake near Winfield. The canal served to lower the water level on Wood Lake by an entire 4 feet, exposing a bench along each side of the lake on which roadways were easily built. By 1910, the fruit industry in the North Okanagan had begun to take shape, when canneries, like the one that first stood here, were being built, and canned fruit was being shipped to market via steamship. Before rail service reached the lake country, steamships along Okanagan Lake transported passengers, market goods, mail, and more between a dozen lakeside communities between Vernon in the north and Penticton in the south. Bolstering economic growth and connectivity, 3 sternwheelers serviced these communities. The SS Aberdeen was the first paddle wheeler on Okanagan Lake, a modern, luxurious steamship that made travel to the South Okanagan possible. The Okanagan Landing Shipyard was built to construct and maintain the Aberdeen and would later serve many steamships. Launched in 1907, the SS Okanagan was owned and operated by the Canadian Pacific Railway. Constructed at Okanagan Landing, it became the second steamship on Okanagan Lake. The SS Sicamous launched from the Okanagan Landing Shipyard in 1914 and traveled from Penticton to Okanagan Landing daily, except Sundays, with 14 scheduled stops along the way. Steamboats also made it possible to ship fruit fresh to market, and by 1914, fruit packing plants began to replace canneries as systems were set in place to sort, grade, pack, and ship fruit from the North Okanagan. During the First World War, many of the region's able-bodied men were called to action, which left packing houses without workers. It was at this time that women began to fill those positions. In 1925, the Canadian National Railway opened a line connecting Vernon in the north to Kelowna in the south. The railway traveled down the west side of Kalamalka Lake, crossed the isthmus at Oyama, then along the east sides of Wood Lake and Duck Lake, and on to Kelowna. This new rail service marked the end of the Okanagan steamship era and changed the focus of the fruit industry from Okanagan Centre to Oyama. The railway made it possible to ship fruit fresh to coastal markets, which led to the construction of more packing houses like this one throughout Lake Country. I'm here in Oyama at Gatzke's orchard to visit my friend Alan Gatzke, a collector of pioneer relics particular to the fruit industry.
This piece of wood was milled from local pine into what the industry calls shook. Shook was used to build the millions of boxes used in the apple industry. This nail stripper was used to align the nails on the rails so that they can be easily pinched in the fingers and driven to, once to set, second to drive it home to build the boxes. This is a packing cart where the ladies would take the apples, wrap them, and fill the box. When it was ready to go, they would push it off down the conveyor. Once the boxes were packed with apples, they would need a lid to be shipped. This is the jig that would hold the lids while they were being nailed shut. These are box trucks used for moving the packed apples. Boxes can be stacked up to 7 high and weighing up to 300 pounds.